Activision have finally released duos for Warzone, and it's safe to say that this is a welcome sight. This long anticipated game mode finally allows two players to play together and enjoy this battle royale as a pair. No longer do you have to put up with having randoms in your squad in bigger game modes, or even worse, try and survive as a duo in trios. This makes everything a level playing field, and I know for sure that millions of people across the Warzone community are going to be over the moon about this. Now, I was able to pull off a win about half an hour after this mode dropped, so I figured I'd show you guys this gameplay so you can see what worked for me. This video is going to serve as a nice little gameplay guide stroke analysis. I'll be covering the tactics we used, tips and tricks that helped us out, as well as general gameplay advice for duos. Now, we started off the match by landing at Boneyard. We know the area very well, and it gave us a clear rotation to make towards the ring. The idea of landing here is that it wouldn't be too hectic, allowing us to grab the loot we needed and get set up for later game. We both prioritised grabbing cash in order to get loadouts as fast as possible, as being well equipped as soon as is always useful. This worked out for us as we were very quickly able to farm up the necessary cash without issue. Now, we did run into a duo that were looting the houses on the outskirts of Boneyard, but they didn't pose much of a threat. The mistake this team made was pushing straight into our building where we dominated the high ground. Dropping one player outside of this meant that it became a 2 versus 1, and this remaining player decided that charging straight up the stairs towards us would be a good idea. Mindlessly rushing like this is never a smart move. As you saw, that player was met with a wall of gunfire that he never had a chance of surviving. A big thing in duos is being conscious of the balance of players. In trios, for example, if you have a teammate down, there's still 2 of you left fighting who can shoot and revive between you. With duos, that isn't the case. Losing your teammate means you can either shoot or revive, never both. So it becomes far more important to drop an enemy player first before you try to push an advantage. This is why this team lost to us so quickly. With one of them downed out in the open, they had no possible chance of being able to get a revive in. This left one enemy charging up to us when we had the superior position. Combat like this only tends to end one way. Throughout this gameplay, you're going to see us purposefully target a single player in order to down half of a duo, rather than damaging both enemies. This allows us to quickly gain a numbers advantage and pick up kills with ease. The next step for us was grabbing our loadouts. At this point in the game, the first circle hadn't even shrunk yet, so we were in an ideal position. We had our ideal guns and perks early, giving us a massive advantage over enemies without loadouts. Plus, thanks to our kills and contracts, we had nearly $30,000 between us. This meant we could both buy loadouts in order to get 2 custom weapons, as well as splash out on UAVs and self-revives. You may notice that on the loadout selection, I pick up both the Growl and a sniper, and this is for good reason. Picking up the Growl lets me be effective at short to medium range, while the sniper covers long to extreme range. This is so that I can engage enemies at any distance. Between us, we can take down enemy players at any range, so we're much more likely to be able to down half a duo before we even get into a gunfight. As ever, we're both running Ghost, as staying off the radar is mandatory if you're a competitive player. Also, if you're going to grab 2 primary weapons like I did, having amped can really be beneficial, as it will shorten the weapon swaps nicely. What followed this was making a wide rotation through Promenade, to what turned out to be a very tactical fight. You can see here they were all but caught out in the open, as we don't have much cover and there are multiple enemy teams around, one of which has seen us and is in a much better position. The best play in this sort of situation is to not rush anything. Don't charge out, communicate with each other, and make sure you keep track of where the enemies are if possible. Heartbeat sensors, as ever, are great for this sort of situation, as you can keep track of players. You'll also see me act as bait, charging between structures in order to draw attention. This is entirely on purpose, as it'll expose their position when they shoot at me. Now, we realised that we were about to be cut off by the ring, so made the call to flank wide and get away from our poor position, as getting stuck with your back to the ring places you at a huge disadvantage. This, however, brought us right into the path of another duo. Again, what worked for us here was downing an enemy player and then rushing when we knew we had a numbers advantage. Despite them obviously having high ground in this situation, it's still a 2 versus 1 engagement. Even with my teammate going down, it gives me all the time in the world to drop this enemy without a problem. This tactic of dropping one, then pushing hard, is what consistently allows you to drop enemy teams in duos. You'll actually see us pick off another player forced out by the gas. This is another reason why rotating before the gas forced you to move is a good idea, as he had no chance running right across our path. Now, there's a general misconception that to be good at Warzone, you need to be pushing for kills and an amazing player in general. Now, it definitely helps to be accurate and talented and all the rest of it, but none of that matters if you aren't tactical. We spent the next 5 or so minutes of this match simply figuring out where to move next. waiting for Ring to come in and planning our next move. There's no point moving without purpose in Warzone, as you're exposed whenever you're travelling. We're using this time to plan where the best high ground will be, and what routes to take depending on the ring itself. This allows us to mentally stay one step ahead of the competition, as we're not reacting to the ring, but moving with it. By moving up to this high ground, we can make sure we're in a good position to come down to low ground if that's where next ring is. We're in an easily defendable position, where we can revive each other without any problems at all. We actually ended up getting surprised by another duo who wandered right beneath us. This entire engagement though is a testament to how important positioning is over everything else. Despite the fact that my partner was downed, we were able to pull off a revive and get back into the fight very quickly. Having high ground like this allows you to fight from cover and makes your movements much harder to predict. You want to give yourself every advantage you can in Warzone, making fights as easy as they can possibly be for you, and having a good position is definitely important in this. This only gets more true the further the game goes on. In last ring, having the cover of a rock can be the difference between winning and losing. You'll see us push up to just small outbuildings that normally offer no cover at all, but in these late game rings they offer valuable protection. I cannot stress enough how important it is to be patient and play to cover in late game circles. I also want to quickly promote the importance of self revives and duos. Here, I get down very quickly, but being able to revive myself leaves my teammate free to heckle the players that killed me. This allows me to revive in peace and get back in the fight. Self-revives are one of the only effective counters to the numbers disadvantage I've mentioned throughout this video. It doesn't work all the time by any means, but in this instance it definitely did. The last team we had to deal with was an interesting one due to our weaker position. Having an airstrike meant we could force them to move out from cover, which for some reason led them to charge away from better ground. This meant that they ended running right across our paths, as I quickly rotated back to my partner. This last fight purely comes down to skill and positioning. By us forcing them to leave beneficial cover, it meant we could easily knock them as they were on the move and out in the open. A crucial thing in last ring especially is not to panic. Try not to get separated from your teammate. Don't rush out into the open or rush enemies when weakened. These players had better cover than us, but as they panicked, they lost any advantage they had over us. What resulted was them running right at us when they were already weakened. As a result, we could pick up the final 2 kills of the game without breaking a sweat. Duos is as good as everyone hoped it would be. It requires a different approach in order to succeed in it, and you'll have to adapt your playstyle if you want to drop wins or get high kills. I hope this video can provide you with a good example of a playstyle that works and give you some pointers you can adapt to suit your own needs. Now everyone is different, and I'm not saying this playstyle / advice or tactics will work for everyone, so feel free to adjust and change what doesn't work for you. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video and it has helped you out, at least a little bit.